Hi, I'm Ben from Sport Shoes and I'm here with Hoka's Harry Jones in the Chamonix Valley. Beautiful weather, and we're going to talk about training and preparation for the world's biggest trail race, the ultra distance Mont Blanc Trail. So Harry, first of all, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
And obviously you're very excited about the race.
Yeah, certainly excited. I think I've got the right level of kind of anticipation and and nerves and excitement to have a good blend for race day, hopefully.
Excellent. And what makes this race so special?
For me, as a competitive ultra runner, it's just the atmosphere, and obviously it just brings together the world's best ultra trail runners for this kind of distance. So it's an amazing feeling being on that start line, for the energy that's there anyway, for everyone from the front to the back. But for me, standing amongst the likes of Jim Walmsley, Tim Tollefson, Kilian Jornet, all those big names and guys who are just some of the best endurance athletes on the planet, it's quite an amazing experience, and then to have the opportunity to see how you match against them on race day, it's pretty exciting.
I mean, it doesn't get much bigger than this, does it?
It doesn't, no.
And you've done the race once before, the full distance race in 2019, and before that you did the other race the day before. So you're coming back now with a different approach. Has the training and preparation changed?
2019, I was based in the Chamonix Valley, so it's a fantastic location obviously for hitting the mountains and hitting the trails. But this year I've been based in Tignes, which is a slightly higher altitude. So just to try and benefit from sleeping at that 2,000 meters plus night after night. And then obviously when you're training then, you just go up, so you're going even higher again. So I do feel a lot stronger from that. And with my coach as well, we've really been focused on the big focus has just been on staying fresh for the race, mentally and physically. So doing enough to make sure you get those big days on the trails. Give the legs a good pounding to make sure you're ready for 10,000 meters of up and down within a race. But at the same time, just not tipping it too far, so that when it gets to that hard stage in a race where you really got to mentally just fight through the fatigue, fight through the pain, and really want that finish, I feel like I've got a lot of fight in me for that.
Absolutely. And just in terms of, you mentioned altitude then, that's a big factor. When you come out to an area like this, obviously you can start to feel it as the further you go up. Is that something you've been able to cope with in the past, or have you got better at coping with altitude? Yeah,
I've been really fortunate in the past when I've done these races where you are performing at altitude. I've been able to spend a little time ahead of the race to be able to acclimatise to that. I feel like I've managed pretty well in the past. I think really it's just when you get to that kind of these higher climbs within the race. So I think the highest point on this race is 2,600 meters plus. Obviously, once you break that 2,000 meter barrier, that's when you really start to kind of slow down a little bit, and you can get really good at kind of coping with that discomfort. But you can also be well adapted where you're not really feeling it quite the same as maybe the guy next to you. So I'm hoping this time around that we'll be less of just less uncomfortable at those heights at race pace, obviously, 50 miles into this 100 miler, and just be able to just kind of go through the motions a little bit more, and then save that kind of fighting energy towards the end of the race.
Got you. And it's a long race, 170 kilometers, I believe.
Yeah, so over 100 miles,
Wow, I mean, how much of the course do you have to know intimately? I mean, have you obviously been round it once in the race? How much have you practiced it?
So this year I've not been on the course at all really, which part of me feels is a bad decision. But I've been here, for the shorter race twice before, the long loop as well. And in the lead up to 2019, I did a lot of course recon then. So I feel, I can probably visualize the whole course, pretty much kilometer by kilometer for a lot of it, I would say. So I feel very familiar with the course, and I feel like this year as well, it's going to be nice extra value to the race for myself, just to see it all again kind of anew. But with the time with my training, I just really focused on that altitude effect of being slightly higher ahead of the race. So I didn't want to spend too much time kind of coming down to the valley, and the travel time between that as well. I really wanted to focus on just getting the work done that needs to be done, and then being confident on race day I can piece it all together.
Excellent. And just a word now on hydration and nutrition when you're on the course. Obviously, it's a long time to be fueling yourself, both with liquid and also with actual food. So how much food will you carry with you?
Really fortunate with a race like this, you get a lot of crew support. So there's 5 major checkpoints where I'll have my crew. So you can kind of break it into those sections really of what you're carrying. So what I like to do is make sure I'm just not overloading myself. It's really easy to kind of carry too much, too many gels, too many kind of real food options as well, and that's where a lot of your weight can suddenly add up in your pack. And it's the worst thing, getting to your next crew point and then realizing you've still got 2 or 3 gels or whatever in your pack and just been carrying dead weight through that part of the race. So yeah, planning your nutrition ahead of the race is really important, just for that, for me anyway, for that weight factor. You don't want to carry anything more than you need to. Yeah, so I really think about structuring what I'm going to have, every hour. So usually I'll have a gel, at least 1 gel every hour. I'll have a bottle with some electrolytes, energy mix in there as well. So then already that's me having around that kind of 300 calories an hour. So I know that I'm on form with that then. And then when I have those checkpoints where I meet up with my crew, I'll try and force down some real food in those points. So maybe not for all of them, especially towards the back end of the race when it's going to be really, really hot. It'll be a little bit, and it's very difficult at that point to stomach hard, more solid foods. But earlier on, especially the midpoint of the race in Courmayeur, I'll sit down for 5 minutes, have some pasta maybe, a bit of mashed potato. So just some slow releasing carbs just to get some of that energy in, but for the most part, just to try and fill the stomach a little bit. If you do these long ultras, for the shorter distance ones, you can get away with just, your liquid energy, so your gels and your drinks. But after 8 hours of that, you just have the worst sensations in your stomach, and then things can turn the other way. So filling yourself up with something a bit more real, just to line the stomach, is really important.
Yeah, it's very much different to the kind of racing I do, which is short distance. I can get away with a couple of gels, but you need some real food inside you, don't you?
You can't just get away with rocket fuel in this kind of race. You have to think about keeping the body happy, because it's such an abnormal thing to do, to run for 20 hours plus. You really need to look after yourself. And
you've practiced with the kind of foods, obviously, that you're going to be on the route.
Yeah, so with my training, I try and just be really adaptable to running at different times of the day. Obviously, if you've got a big session coming up, you don't want to jeopardize, like a hard training, hard tempo session or anything like that. You don't want to jeopardize it by purposely eating a load of food before that. But if I'm going out for a long run or something along those lines, I won't be too finicky really about if I've eaten, within an hour of that run or anything like that. I'll just say, right, that's how it is, and most likely going to have some sort of discomfort on race day when you're trying to power through, and you're having a bit of a dark patch, maybe a bit of a low patch mentally as well, but you've still got to keep getting those calories in when you don't want to, but that for the longevity of the race, you need to get that energy in.
Oh yeah. And just a word now on kind of sleep, because you touched upon it earlier then, and sleep deprivation is a big thing, obviously. For somebody like me who really likes their sleep, this is something I find it really hard to process, the fact that you can run around this almost without having any sleep or some, just barely having some sleep. So is there a plan around that? Have you done some training through the night and to cope with the effects of not sleeping?
So I've got a toddler right now, so I feel like life for the past 2 years has been sleep deprivation training. So yeah, I'm pretty happy with running at any time of day, if needs be. Not that I go off training in the middle of the morning, but just that, my sleep is often disturbed by him. But yeah, I think as well it comes with experience of having done these races. Certainly the first night race I did was a bit of a disaster for me. I was actually in Hong Kong, and my head torch was on and off working for whatever reason. And yeah, I remember finally daylight was coming. I felt so excited about it, but at the same time I was climbing up the hill and felt like I was falling asleep at the same time. But I feel like every time you race through the night or have those kind of experiences, you get more and more accustomed to it, more and more used to it, to the point now where I really enjoy running through the night. It's like a video game. You've got your headlight beam and you just dodge the rocks and you just keep moving through it, and something really peaceful as well, as I'm sure being in the mountains when you can look up and see the stars in the middle of the night, especially somewhere like here, especially on the kind of Italian side. That's when it's like the deep night, after you get out of Courmayeur, and you can just see the glacier to your left, you can hear it cracking, and it's very beautiful.
Is that kind of like the highlight of the course, or one of the highlights?
One of the highlights for sure. I think it's really awesome, because you wouldn't ordinarily be running along the trail at 3 a.m, 4 a.m. in that kind of part of the world.
And when you're running at night, obviously you've got the head torch on, and you're having to look at where the path is. Is there any time where perhaps navigation is an issue, or knowing where to go?
Within this route, it's obviously really well marked, so it's quite difficult to go off course in this route. Fingers crossed I don't this year now.
Don't want to jinx it. And can you follow other headlights?
You can follow the other headlights ahead, so you've got plenty of idea of what's to go. any of the major junctions are always pretty well kind of marked here, so you're not going to start veering off somewhere you shouldn't generally. But yeah, if you've got a decent head torch, you can see it's pretty clear what route you're going.
Yeah, I understand. And obviously you've got to carry 2 head torches, I believe, as part of the kit, and a spare battery as well.
Yeah.
And we'll come on to kit
Sure.
in a moment. Just a word on kit then, what are we going to wear on the feet, do you think?
Yeah, so I'm going to be wearing the Hoka Tecton X. It's a shoe I've been racing in all year. I think it's really responsive, and I find that it just feels great on the foot, up the hills and down the hills. And with UTMB as well, you've got some really long downhills. So I find that the rigidity of the shoe through the carbon plates just helps to keep the momentum going as you're going down the hill, and keeps the feet a little less, for me anyway, it stops them from fatiguing towards that kind of 6 hours plus of racing.
Yeah, and you'll do a shoe change, will you?
I may do a shoe change, yeah. So the Hoka Mafate Speed 4, which they've just released, again, been really enjoying that. So it's got a little bit more cushion into it. So it really depends on how the body responds within the race. Sometimes, yeah, it just feels nice to put something fresh on the foot. And I guess it depends on the conditions. If we have a really wet race, it might be nice to just throw on some dry socks and dry shoes if it starts to clear up again.
Yeah, it's a nice feeling, isn't it? Having that little bit of comfort.
Yeah, so hopefully then you're not back in the rain 5 minutes later.
Exactly. Now, trail running poles.
Yeah.
They are a big part of the kit and a massive advantage. I mean, is that something you've really had to practice using in terms of technique?
Yeah, certainly. Like yourself, I come from more of a shorter distance background. So yeah, the idea of using poles in something like the Snowdon race, you're just never going to do that. So yeah, I've invested a lot of time in practicing technique over the years. Even up until last time I did UTMB, I think I wasn't still, obviously I understood there was the value in it for a race like a UTMB, but I still wasn't fully sold on really got to put the time in with the poles. But if you watch, any of the European guys who do a lot of ski mountaineering in the winter, obviously, people like Kilian Jornet do come to mind for that. They've spent countless hours with poles, obviously on the skis, and when you see them using the poles in the races, it's just effortless and it's just efficient. Whereas for us guys in the UK, it's second nature, something you really need to work at. So this year especially, even in going up my local climb, which is only 200 meters of climbing, I've been taking poles out and doing reps up there just to get as much time in them as possible, really.
Yeah, it's just good to practice all the time, isn't it? Keep sharp and
it's the practice of the technique, but again, it's just like running, it's building the muscle memory, the efficiency there. And if you're new to poles and you've never used them before, a lot of people get put off by the initial effort that they feel suddenly the hands put out with their upper body, and a lot of core strength there as well. So you just need to adapt to that.
And is strength work something, is a priority for you as an ultra distance runner?
Yeah, something that over the years I've just got more and more dedicated to. Certainly feel like a much stronger runner now than even a few years ago. Having had a few injuries, you just get that reminder that it's such a key component to ultra running. Given that with ultra running, you're doing these crazy miles, you're doing these big training blocks, in the lead up to these races, things start falling apart basically. Like, it doesn't matter who you are, it's going to catch up to you at some point. So yeah, I'll be down the gym, hitting quite heavy squats, for me at least. Pull-ups, the whole body really, just make sure it's fully ready to get beating out there, yeah.
That's just as important as the running, I expect, isn't it, the training?
It definitely is, and like in the past, I've been just like most runners, I'd rather go for the run or down the strength session. Now I'm quite happy to cut down my mileage to get in the strength work that's needed. Cause
that's a really interesting point, isn't it?
Because I've only felt stronger and better for it, which is, a great reminder.
Great piece of advice there, great tip. I need to listen to this bit afterwards. And just a word on safety. Obviously, we had a tragic death on Monday in the PTL race, which was awful. Is that something that's at the back of your mind? Taking on these trails that are quite epic and at times dangerous? Yeah,
obviously a really sad situation, but yeah, safety has to be at the forefront of your mind. I think people forget sometimes that you're in a race situation, so everyone expects it just to be a completely safe environment, and forgets the waiver that they've signed entering these races, that at the end of the day it's still you and the mountain, and mountains need respect, and especially when you're tired and fatigued, you have to be careful out there. And unfortunately, accidents still happen to anyone who's been extremely careful, so you just have to be well trained. And at the times and the moments when maybe you're doing a technical rough descent, you have to kind of weigh up, should I let this guy go if he's going a lot faster than you? If it means you're running outside of your comfort zone, maybe you should just take a step back and focus on hitting the uphill a little bit harder next time.
Yeah, completely agree. And Finally, highlights of the route. I mean, we talked about perhaps, you know, when you're on the Italian side and you can see the lights and you see the glacier and the noises, just the sounds of nature.
Yeah.
Any other highlights of the route, the things that you most look forward to?
To me, yeah, it's gonna have to be, as we said earlier, coming up to Col de Montet here. So the last major climb of the route. By that point, obviously, you know, as long as you don't do anything stupid, that you're going to make that finish line. So that's something really to look forward to, and yeah, see if you can pick up any last-minute places there too.
Yeah, and finally, any tips for our budding ultra runners at sportshoes.com, our customers?
I guess just kind of train to where you're at. That's the most important thing of any running. You can have these big ambitions, and you can get to them. You know, races like this one, or any of them big mountain races, they might seem just crazy and extreme to start with, and that might be what attracts you. But the important thing is to take the stepping stones to get there, and not rush to doing that 100 miles or 50 miles or whatever it is. For me, yeah, my kind of ultra trail journey started probably around the time that I raced you, although a lot further back up the Snowdon race, around 2015 time. Yeah, I was just kind of doing some 50Ks, building up slowly, 50 miles. It took a long time before I even went for the 100-mile distance. As I said, that was 2019. I didn't rush into that process at all, knowing that it's a big jump to go, especially given that there's a lot of 100K races and not many races in between that 100K and 100 miles. It's a big jump between the two, and if you take it too soon, you might not enjoy the experience as much as you want to. So just be patient and let the body adapt and get there in your own time.
That's really great advice, and it has been wonderful to see your journey into ultra running and seeing, you know, all the achievements that you've had over the years, and to where you are now as an elite athlete, as Hoka sponsored athlete. You know, we're really proud of you. We're going to be supporting you and want to wish you the best of luck come Friday. We'll be following you on the tracker.
Fantastic.
So I hope you have a great race, and thanks for your time with this.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Thank you.
Cheers. And if you enjoyed watching this content, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, sportshoes.com.